Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Hey, if you've ever spent hours, and I mean hours, trying to get an Amazon listing just right, only to get hit with some bizarre, frustrating error code, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to decode the most common listing errors, and believe me, we're turning that frustration into success.
You know that error message can feel like a total dead end. It just stops a sale cold before it even has a chance to start. But what if I told you that most of these, and I mean it, are surprisingly simple to solve once you know what to look for? Okay, let's just dive right into this and get your products listed fast.
So, we're starting with the most common category of all, value and attribute errors. These are those little mistakes, in your data fields that cause the biggest headaches. But thankfully, they're also the easiest to fix. First one up is error 90057. This little guy pops up when you've put in a value for an attribute that Amazon system, well, it just doesn't recognize it. The problem is usually that you're using your own custom term when Amazon is expecting you to pick one from its own pre-approved list. Now look at this, because this slide makes it so clear. You might think, hey, darkish black sounds kind of cool, or premium steel sounds way better for marketing. But here's the thing, Amazon system is a robot, not a customer. It's looking for the exact term from its drop-down menu, like black or stainless steel. So the main takeaway here is you've got to be precise, precision over persuasion.
And the solution? It's so simple. First, just only select values from that drop-down list they give you. That's it. And second, you've got to resist the urge to copy-paste or type in your own creative descriptions. Just stick to the script Amazon provides, and this error will completely disappear.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Error 90220. This is basically the digital version of leaving a mandatory question blank on a form. Amazon needs certain bits of info to properly categorize your product, and if you miss one, bam, you get this error. And as you can see, the problem is super straightforward. Selling a t-shirt, you absolutely have to tell them the size. Selling shoes, you've got to declare the gender. Leaving these fields blank just isn't an option. You've got to fill them in correctly, just like you see on the right side. That's the only way forward. Okay, now for one that's a little bit trickier. Error 9248. This is a conditional error. It happens when you fill in a field that actually should have been left blank based on something you already answered. It's kind of like a little logic puzzle.
Just look at this example. If you've already told Amazon your product is non-electric, then why on earth would you specify a battery type? It's a total contradiction, right? The correct move here is to leave the battery type field completely blank. The system needs all the data to be logically consistent.
All right, so we've pretty much mastered the logic of values. Now let's look at a whole different kind of mistake that has to do with length and language, character and keyword limits. This is all about being concise, keeping it short and sweet.
So here we have error 90225. This error gets triggered when you try to stuff way too much information, especially marketing language, into a simple data field. These attribute fields have really strict character limits, for a very good reason. So the crucial point on this slide is really understanding the difference between data and a sales pitch. The material field doesn't need to know it's high-quality, premium, heavy, durable, long-lasting. Nope, it just needs the fact, stainless steel. So keep it short, keep it factual, and get straight to the point. And this same less is more idea applies to error 9797, which is all about your back-end keywords. Amazon gives you a 200-byte limit, and trust me, that's not a lot of space. This error happens when you go over that limit, usually by stuffing it with duplicate or just totally unnecessary words. What's really interesting here is that less is actually more effective. Look at the wrong example. It's just full of repetition. The word bottle appears over and over again. The right example, on the other hand, is clean, it's relevant, and it's way more effective. Just remove the duplicates, cut the fluff, and focus on the most important terms. You'll stay under the limit and be error-free. Okay, let's move on to a new battleground, the Excel upload template. For anyone out there doing bulk listings, you know these errors can be a real showstopper. Let's see how this builds on what we've already learned. Error 99001 is probably the most common Excel template error there is. It simply means you've left a required cell blank. Amazon often tries to help by highlighting these required cells in red, so think of those as your first clue. As this slide shows, fields like brand name and item name they're non-negotiable. You literally can't upload a product without them. The solution is to just carefully scan your file for any of those required cells, especially the red ones, and make sure they are all filled in before you even think about re-uploading.
And our final error today is 99010. This is another one of those conditional errors, but this time it's all about pairs. Certain attributes, well, they work as a team. If you fill in one part, you absolutely have to fill in the other.
This slide illustrates it perfectly. Saying the unit count is 6 is completely meaningless to the system without the unit count type. Is it a pack of 6, 6 grams, 6 fluid ounces? What is it? You have to provide both pieces of the puzzle. They have to be filled out together to be valid.
Okay, so we've diagnosed and solved all the most common problems. But how about we just avoid them in the first place? Yeah? Let's quickly run through some pro-level best practices that are going to save you hours and hours of work.
Now, these aren't just tips. This is a whole strategic shift. Here are the 4 golden rules. 1. Never ever manually edit those drop-down values. This makes sure your product actually shows up in filtered searches, which is how customers who know what they want will find you. 2. Use attributes for facts, not for marketing. Clean data helps Amazon's algorithm categorize you correctly, which boosts your visibility. 3. Always use a recent Excel template. They're constantly being updated, and using a fresh one, less than 90 days old, is the single best way to avoid a ton of upload failures. And 4. Make sure your packaging data matches your listing data. This is huge for preventing inventory problems and protecting your account health.
So after all that, what does success actually look like? Let's see how applying all these rules creates a perfect, error-free listing and, more importantly, why it matters so much.
This right here is your victory screen. Just look at this example for a water bottle. Every single value is correct, it's concise, and it's chosen from the valid options. The material is stainless steel, not premium metal. The unit count is complete, 1 pack. This is clean data, and it's exactly what Amazon's system loves to see. And why do we do all of this? Well, the result is pretty simple. First, no more errors stopping you in your tracks. But even more importantly, clean data leads to better search visibility, which means more customers can find you. And finally, it means faster listing approval. So what's the big takeaway here? Mastering your data isn't just about avoiding annoying errors. It's about building a better, smarter, and more successful business on Amazon.